probably the biggest thing of anti-Americanism is the attack on the Second Amendment, at least in my opinion. Like, as you guys really know, the left hates the Second Amendment. Oh, they hate it.
No. They hate it for you, but they don't hate it for themselves.
Yep.
Why are they allowed to have security guards and we're not? And why we can't have guns?
Great point.
Yeah, they hate it. They always hate it for you. They don't hate it for themselves. Remember, even with the masks, you got a mask up. They don't got a mask up. Or they only mask up when the cameras were on. And then when the cameras went off, they were like, all right, I'm done with this.
did you guys see that video after the Supreme Court, that Bruin ruling where it struck down that New York law where you can't just reject someone from getting a concealed carry permit just because as long as they have a clear record, you have to give it to them. Did you see what the governor and the mayor of New York said? They were literally calling this, this is this is going to get people killed. And like even the governor of New York said, and I talked about this in my show earlier today. She said, like, back then, you do realize that the guns, the only weapons that were available were muskets. And then and I explained this to Osiris beforehand. The founders knew the technology would advance to where well beyond where it was at the time. They were very well aware of that. So that's why they put it in. The right of the people to keep and bear arms, meaning keep, they can own it, and bear, meaning they can carry it. That shit can't be infringed. And New York, you guys were infringing on that by just rejecting people from being able to do that just because, for no reason. And plus, and I also said on top of that, there were, if a lot of people don't realize this, there were guns back then that were considered assault weapons. They just don't look like the way you think they do. Like, there were guns where you fire like 20 rounds with just one pull with under 5 seconds. Because Steven Crowder talked about this, and I actually played the video.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. So let me ask you guys this question, and I'll start this time with you, Osiris. As far as anti-Americanism go, obviously we've got a pocket of people. I mean, it's a large pocket. It's not like something that's like a small pocket. It's a good percentage of the left. I'm almost convinced that it's almost all of the left. But let's just say it's a pretty significant amount of the left. Why do they stay here in a country that they hate?
Because they want to take it over. Their natural state, because I want a peaceful separation, because I think we're beyond repair. There's no coming back from some of the stuff that's been said, the positions that have been had. It's just my opinion. I want it peacefully done to separate. But what I've always said, too, though, is, say hypothetically we separated, and you could break it down to people who believe in an original interpretation of the Constitution and those who don't. You separate it based on that. The leftists don't. They believe in a living constitution, most of them. They would eventually want to take over the other half. They just have it innately in them that they have. If they don't have someone that they can dominate, then they don't exist. Well, how can you be righteous if you don't have someone to be righteous over? And I think that's what it's about. They have a hunger in them. Something triggered it that made it worse, like the stuff we talked about now that made it worse than in the 90s and others times. But we're in a time period now where it's triggered.
That's interesting. Yeah. What about you, Ray?
I actually agree with Osiris on something. I actually want a peaceful separation. Like I said, I don't want a civil war like some lunatics on the internet are trying to push. No. I'm for peace. I'm for peaceful separation. But you're right, Osiris. They would try to attack, to take us over. And like I said, the first thing they would do, they would align with China. That's the first. Well, they kind of already are aligned with China, but they would officially come out and admit it. And what I think would happen is hypothetically, if California was seceded from the U.S., just hypothetically, with it being so close to the sea, it's pretty obvious they would probably invite China right over there, because China would want to be connected to the U.S. But here's a proposal that I have. How about we separate and both sides have to agree to this? You cannot align with any country that has been enemies of the country before we separate it. You can't be friends with China. You can't be friends with Russia, North Korea, Iran, or anyone in the Middle East. That's my proposal. Because guess what? Once you bring that kind of stuff in, there's going to be something. It's going to escalate. And
I don't think a peaceful separation is possible. It would weaken us considerably. China's already a threat as is, and we're so divided. I think Tucker played, and I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But Tucker played some Chinese professor or something like that, or maybe he was somebody that from the intelligence community over there. He talked about how he had paid and bought politicians in their pocket, and he couldn't go into the details as to who or what, because obviously we get in trouble. But he said it. We have politicians in our pockets over there in the United States. You look at the events. You look at the events of C-19 and how nobody wants to, or I shouldn't say nobody. Nobody on the left wants to investigate its origins and do a thorough investigation of where it came from, how it got out, how to prevent it, and so on and so forth. The fact that they don't want to at all unanimously, it tells me that guy, there's credit to what that guy said.
Who was that guy that slept with the Chinese spy?
Eric Swalwell.
I forgot what his name was. And he's not being investigated.
Nah.
No, he was. They did investigate, but he's still, to my knowledge, on the House Intelligence Committee, believe it or not.
They investigated?
They did clear him.
They investigated because Nancy Pelosi was like, I don't see him, I don't think he did anything wrong. What are we supposed to do? Vet every intern that comes to work here? Those were her words.
He's probably Hunter's roommate, for all we know.
Listen, the left just covers for themselves. I mean, you know, that's what I mean. If you are a prominent Democrat, you're untouchable. To be honest with you, I mean, look, we had out of Trump's presidency, which was 4 years. Okay, 2 of those were under a Republican House and a Republican Senate. How many Democrats got investigated? How many Democrats got indicted? 0. That tells you how deep the swamp is, and that tells you what type of situation we're against.
And also like to your point of where you said like why wouldn't people want to go to like China, because that's what they like communism and authoritarianism, so why wouldn't they go there? And it's this easy response, that because this place is so good the haters don't even want to leave it. It's as simple as that.
That's true, and that's exactly why the socialists who are pushing socialism won't go live in an actual socialist country, because the benefits are just too good under capitalism.
And Carlos, I still get a kick out of the first time I had you on my show, where you said you would pay for someone to fly out to Venezuela as long as they agree to give up their citizenship and never return. I still get a kick out of that.
That's right. And that offer stood there. Nobody took it. Nobody even liked my comment. You know, nobody even said, let me hear more. It's all a facade. It's all a facade. And as a matter of fact, like I was telling you guys before we started recording, the guy who I was having a debate with last week, he's telling me how bad the United States was, how bad it was towards Hispanics and Mexicans and indigenous people. And I said, okay, simple question. You hate this country. It's obvious. You don't like it. Give me the name of one country that is absolutely perfect. Give me the name of one country that has never committed any type of a sin against anybody else. And I will, and let me know which one that is. So that way I can go move there, because apparently you think that there's some type of utopia out there from the past, and I've never read about it in the history books. Needless to say, like typical leftists, they never answer any questions, no matter how simple they are.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a perfect country. Every country has some blood on its hands. Like Tom MacDonald said in his song America, he says that every flag around the world is covered in a little blood. And guess what? No country will ever be perfect, nor can you expect that to ever happen. But what we can is we can learn from the past so that we never do anything like that again. Because guess what? That we can use as a building block to help build a better future. That's just the way I viewed it.
But let's take it from a certain perspective, because again, the narrative is that America is bad because of its past sins. Okay, so they're focusing their range into one period and one time, and excluding all other time, all other places. Right? I mean, it's the reason why we have countries right now. Tribes invaded other tribes and dominated and conquered them. Kingdoms did it to other kingdoms, nations did it to other nations, and countries did it to other countries. It's part of human history.
Yeah, I know Osiris's opinion on this, but Carl, and this is something that the left has always been pushing. What is your opinion on reparations?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'd be okay with reparations if all the Democrats are the ones that are paying it. They're the ones who they're the party of the KKK, and they're the ones who fought against the freedom of the slaves. So if the Democrats can pay for the reparations, I'm all for it.
Well, I've told Osiris this. I'm I'm half black, and I actually do have ancestors that were slaves. But when I tell people this, I was like, who are you going to give the reparations to? No one who was alive was a slave. Guess what? Just because my ancestors were slaves doesn't mean I'm owed anything. Because guess what? I'm not owed anything. This country's been great to me. And if you're talking about like, well, they should have paid reparations back then. Well, no, I don't even think that. What they were paid was their freedom, and they were given an opportunity to succeed. And like they always go to like Daryl Davis talked about this when he went on Tim Pool's show, which I was very disappointed in that, because I lost a whole lot of respect for him when he talked this. But what he's saying was black people should be getting reparations because like Native Americans and who get reparations, Japanese Americans who were put in internment camps get reparations. My opinion on this is like, I don't think any of them should be getting reparations. No, guess what? They were given their freedom and all of that back. Guess what? We do not need to give them anything, especially money. And Daryl Davis said, well, not money. Well, let's give them tuitions and education. I was like, no, you can't even do that, because like there are people out there who are of different races that is just equally as qualified, and some possibly even better that would deserve that tuition. And when you give out tuitions, free college, that's coming down the pipeline. You're just who's gonna have to pay for all of that? We, the taxpayers, are gonna have to pay it. Well, then again, blacks too. So I don't know. Who knows? This thing is just getting weird.
If I could chime in real quick on that one, I talk to people about reparations a lot, and America's a great country. You get reparations. You get whatever you have the political, financial power and persuasion to get. Right now, Ukraine's got billions of dollars. Do I want money going to Ukraine? No. But is it going there? Yep. Because whoever has the political power is taking our money and taking it there. So if you want reparations, how I feel about it is kind of irrelevant. So my thing was, and just to be clear, I'm not for it. But for people who are for it, I'll say this. I will say I will be with you on the journey to strategize on how to get. The reason why I say that is because the journey to strategize on how to get there, I think it will enrich them to figure out that's not what you really want. And what I mean by that is if you have high schools in Baltimore where the majority of students can't read at a 4th grade level, you don't have the political power to ask for reparations. If the government tells you to put a muzzle on your face and you have to do it and you can't stop them, what position are you in to ask for anything? You might get something, but it won't be from your doing. It won't be what you ask for. It'll be what they give to you. So let's get some power. I can be with that journey. That's what MAGA's about, getting political power. There's over MAGA in D.C., about what, 5 people? So it's about getting political power, getting some government.
Maybe one.
And maybe one. Well, you got Gosar, you got Gates, you got MTG, you got.
Well, they don't live there in D.C. though. They live in. Oh, okay.
I mean, like in
Yeah.
So here's the funny part. I think that it's just a political talking point. We all know that no one's going to really do reparations. I remember. Was it 2020 where the Democrats? I think they were in New York. I think it was. I don't know if it was Al Sharpton, or I don't remember what race baiter it was, but he basically asked every Democratic candidate if they were for reparations, and he wanted them to acknowledge it and publicly admit that they would be for it. But again, it's just a political talking point. It's so unrealistic how do you determine who even gets that, since nobody, to Ray's point, nobody's been a slave? Listen, I'm more African than Elizabeth Warren is Native Indian. I have 12%. According to a DNA test, I have 12% African in me, okay? So I'm more African than she is Indian.
And here's another good point. Like, that means reparation. If you're going to give reparations to people who are descendants of slaves, that means a lot of white people would get reparations too. Because here's why: there are a whole bunch of white people that don't look black but are black. Because there are some slaves that got involved in interracial relationships, or maybe even their descendants, and they just had kids with white people or someone of another race, and they just don't even look black at all. So would you give them reparations? And my point is no, because that's going to look bad. It's going to create an incentive. Like, almost anyone can just go for reparations. Yep.
So Osiris, let me ask you this. We understand that slavery did happen. Obviously, it was a blemish in our history. I mean, I think it's a blemish on the entire world, because the entire world practiced it way before the Europeans got into any type of power. I mean, if we go even from a biblical standpoint, if you're going 3,000 years BC, right, the Egyptians had already enslaved the Jews, right? So we can see the early accounts of slavery at that point. But I guess my question to you is this: why does the left solely focus on the fact that white people practice slavery against blacks, but they never ever acknowledge the fact that white people also died freeing them?
Yeah, it's selective. It's like whoever has the power gets to teach the history. And it's easier to control people if you, hey, I'm teaching you history, but I'm leaving some stuff out. I'm giving some opinion as well. So yeah, the 1619 Project could bring that up. That's, if you don't know, the Nicole Hannah-Jones Project that really wants to reimagine, that's one of those dangerous words, imagine the country's founding from 1776 to 1619. If you believe it or not, they're literally trying to rewrite the history of our country. And it's all for power, all for manipulation. And that's why I say, when you teach history, it's got to have no opinion in it. You just got to teach the history. Yep. And if you do that, I'm fine with it. But if you come in and you say, well, America was founded on slavery, that's factually incorrect. I mean, America wasn't even a country in 1619. But yeah, I think it all comes down to manipulation, and they control the majority of the people who have weight in this conversation, right or wrong, are typically what you would call Black Americans, and they've got most of them on lock. Like, if you turn on your TV, you won't find a Black person on TV that would have this discussion like we're having it now. Did you see that clip recently where Don Lemon, I believe it was Don Lemon, he asked about the Queen, the passing?
Right here.
And he brought up slavery.
If people want it, though, what they need to do is you always need to go back to the beginning of a supply chain. Where was the beginning of the supply chain? That was in Africa, and when that crossed the entire world, when the slavery was taking place, which was the first nation in the world that abolished slavery? The first nation in the world to abolish it. It was started by William Wilberforce, was the British. In Great Britain, they abolished slavery. 2,000 naval men died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why? Because the African kings were rounding up their own people. They had them on cages waiting in the beaches. No one was running into Africa to get them. And I think you're totally right. If reparations need to be paid, we need to go right back to the beginning of that supply chain and say who was rounding up their own people and having them handcuffed in cages.
Dude, you just flipped the script on him.
Wow.
Yeah, it does. Careful what you ask. If you don't want an answer, don't ask a question.
Here's the interesting part, though. I would imagine, I mean, Don Lemon, let's be real, he's a leftist, whatever, but he's not stupid. He's an intelligent man. He should know factual history versus the cherry pick one that the left pushes. Maybe he assumed that he had a fellow leftist that he was interviewing.
Yeah. There's unwritten rules, and that guest, I don't know who she is. She broke the rules. And yeah, that was not, he knows all that stuff. He's very smart, like you said. He's really bright. He knows all that. If you watch him, he wasn't that bad. when he first started, like way back in the day, he wasn't that bad. He's very smart. That she just didn't play the game. Barry Weiss was, I believe it was CNN too. Barry Weiss didn't play the game. You haven't seen him back since. When you don't play the game, you're gone. You're not invited back.
The only stupid person on CNN, or at least used to be on CNN, was Brian Stelter. That's the only stupid person.
I like it when Mark Dice does his voice.
Yeah.